Hi, everybody. Welcome to Shattered Silence, Stories of Recovery and Resilience. My name is Jori. I am here with my good friend, Teresa.
Hello.
Thank you for being here. We actually met like maybe 6 years ago from my late fiancé, Kyle. For those of you that don't know, Kyle passed away last August. Suddenly. So that's why we are here. That's why this podcast even came about.
It's happening.
Yes, it's really happening.
We're here. It's happening, and this is something that I thought that you would be really good at, because you always had people, you would express your feelings online.
Yeah.
And people would reach out to you.
Yeah. So that's how, after Kyle passed, I just kind of like shared some of my stories and my experience with just like my raw, like real emotions as it was happening. And I was just getting so much feedback on people telling me how much that even my little stories of me sharing like all the sadness that I was going through, honestly, was saying that it was helping them so much, just knowing that they weren't alone and that they've had similar experience or whatever it was. And so that's where
I would always we became closer because of this happening.
Right.
I would see how you were feeling, and I would call you up. Are you okay? You know?
Yeah.
And then you would
did check up on me a lot.
Yeah, and you would just kind of tell me about stories about how people are reaching out to you, and I just thought, you need to do something. You need to do like a blog or something online, because people are relating to you so well, and it'll help you in turn.
Right. And I've always loved to like write, and like I don't know, I've always loved to write. And then so as people were like reaching out to me and saying that my stories were helping, I'm like, and you in my ear too, like, you should do something.
Yeah.
People really have a reaction to you, and you're helping people already just by honestly just being real.
Yeah.
And so then I'm like, I had thought about a podcast, because I'm like, I am a single mom now. I own a business. I am not going to have the time to sit and write and do that. I really can't dedicate my time to that. I feel like writing takes a lot of time, a lot of editing and stuff like that. So anyways, so when we were just talking and I had mentioned a podcast, it just so happened that Citron had a podcast room.
We were having lunch, and we were supposed to be talking about something else, another business venture.
Yeah.
And then when we got into the subject about, like this podcast, and I'm like, do you really want to do this? Do you really want to do this podcast? And you were like, yes, I already have it written out in books. You said you already had notes and everything.
I did.
And I said, this is great. I said, I'm going to call Steven.
Yeah. Because honestly, one thing was like, as great as a podcast sounds, I'm like, how in the world am I even going to begin?
I think in the beginning we thought it was going to be so easy that we could just handle it ourselves.
I know. We were just like, okay, yeah, and then we'll launch the first one in a month. Like, literally, we thought that was going to be our timeline, and then we're like, okay, wait, there's a lot more that's going to go into this.
As we started talking to Steven.
Yeah, but also, it's like, okay, at that point, it's like, we don't want to rush into this, because I want it to be special, and it's really, really important to me. And especially like these first few episodes, it's like, I do want it to be perfect, because this is my life. This is my experience. This is what I've had to deal with, and yeah, I've always kind of been like an open book. Like, you ask me questions and I'll tell you, I'll answer. But like having like a larger audience, I guess, that's like reaching out to me, I'm like, whoa, like, the feeling of like having an impact on people and that I am possibly making a difference for them is like, man, I want to do something more. You know what I mean?
But I feel like this happened for a reason too, because the stars were like aligning like so well.
100%.
Like when we just talked about it, and then I got a hold of Steven, and then we brought Aspire on.
That part was crazy.
That was crazy because they were so willing to like help you share this journey. And I remember meeting with them saying, I have this great idea, my friend, wants to talk about, and they're a client of ours. And, we want, I thought this would be a good part for you guys to be a part of. And I just remember the first thing that they were saying is, we love the idea, but whatever helps Jori get through her journey, we're on board.
Yeah.
And that was great. I was just like, this is how
That's...
it was all meant to be with the podcast.
Yeah. And I think even just the fact that the time frame of it, we were at lunch, we were talking about a different, you know, business venture, like very casually. The podcast gets brought up, but when you come into the office right after to talk to Steven, Scott from Aspire is actually here at that moment. And so it's like you guys got to have a meeting like literally 2 hours after you and I had talked about it.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh, I'm on board. Everyone's on board. And we're like, oh my gosh, how this just like you said, it all aligned like perfectly.
So well.
Like I feel like it was just like that was my sign for me. That was my like true sign from God. Like this was meant to happen. This was meant to be.
And this isn't just about Kyle's incident that happened. This isn't like, as I learned, like getting closer to you, like grief kind of has been in your life.
Yeah. So yeah, when I was really young, actually I was 10 years old. My best friend got hit by a car when we were riding bikes together. She was in the ICU and she passed away 2 days later. So that, I mean, I was in fifth grade. I was in fifth grade. And I was with her.
Something like that.
And like something extremely traumatic. It's been 21 years now and I still like tear up thinking about it, you know. It's something that's ingrained in, this is not the right word. Ingrained in my mind, you know. And so and then even, you know, that made me kind of grow up a little bit faster, I think, as a kid. I remember seeing a counselor and it was like, she's so mature for her age, you know. It's like, well, that's probably because of the trauma and the grief that I was going through at such a young age. But then when I, you know, growing up in high school, I had a really good friend, my friend James. He was diagnosed with cancer when I want to say he was 15 or 16. So we were sophomores. And then he got through it, went into remission, and then it came back like mid senior year, I want to say. And so he ended up passing away right after we got out of high school. And so I was with him all the time right before he passed, just keeping him company and stuff. And so we were great friends. And then even further on in my life, it's like seems like every 10 years, 5 years, whatever, I've experienced something. And then one of my younger cousins passed away on a trip in Thailand. He just, he went on a trip in Thailand and he passed away suddenly over there. Another cousin passed away a couple years after that. My grandma passed away the year after that. And then Kyle passed away the year after that. So
it's just been one thing.
It's been a roller coaster. It's like making me emotional thinking about it. But, you know, it's like.
That's hard. It's hard to deal with.
Yeah. I've had like so many sorry.
You're fine.
I've had like so many great people in my life that have passed away. And I've just dealt with so many emotions with like losing people in my life. And it brings up a lot of fears. Like, who else is going to go, you know? And actually I did have a fear that I was going to lose my dad for a while too, because he was diagnosed with cancer about a month after Kyle passed away.
I remember that.
And so it was like, man, I would say Christmas, that was probably the lowest point for me. It's really setting in after Kyle passed, you know? And then it's like, seeing my dad, he was so sick, he couldn't even like sit and open presents with us. And that was like the first like Christmas that my son and like my nephew like were able to open presents, you know. They're finally like old enough. They were only like a couple months old first Christmas. So anyways, it's like
you handled that so well too. Like,
that was a lot.
Like watching you go through that, I'm just like, wow, you were so amazing, so strong, like going through all that.
That I was just like...
And he made it through.
Oh my gosh, he made it through. He is cancer-free right now. Thank God. Literally, thank God. I could not imagine losing my dad, too. Like, even just the other day, we talked, and he was just like... He was crying, too, and he was just like... I'm so thankful that I'm here, and I'm able to be here for that little boy, because he needs a father figure in his life, and I'm so glad I could be here for him, you know? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine. So I thank God that I have my dad.
Yeah. Kyle was a great dad, though, when he was here.
Oh my gosh. He was. He seriously
Tell
was
us
the best.
about how you met Kyle.
I always love to tell the story about how I met Kyle because it's like truly like, it was just like so happy. Like, Kyle had gotten out of the military in the end of 2017, and then New Year's going into 2018 is when I met him. So I had, you know, my sister and I were like, okay, let's go out and do something for New Year's Eve. We went to 1933 in Bakersfield. And then I say met Kyle because we actually went to junior high together, but we had like mutual friends, but we never like were friends. Like really we knew who each other were and stuff like that. But we never were like friends. And so just that night, it was like, we followed each other on social media, and I ran into him and I was like, oh, hey Kyle, what's up? He's like, hey Jory, what's up? And it's just kind of funny because we never really like hung out or anything. And then we like danced all night. He was like just so funny on the dance floor.
He's
typical
so much
I
Yeah, he's so much fun.
And I just remember,
quite the dancer.
Yeah, we have plenty of videos to show. And then so I just was like cracking up, you know, he was just so fun to be around. And I remember my sister, after we got home that night, I remember my sister being like, telling my mom, I have never seen another person that could outdance Jory, because I've always loved to dance. Right. And it's just always been like, all right, like, you know, we go out and have fun, and I've just always loved to dance. And so my sister was like, they had so much fun together, and it was just like, I mean, I think my sister could tell from the beginning that we totally hit it off.
Right.
And right after that, we were like totally inseparable.
Wait, but you got to tell the story about, because Kyle would always tell me the story about how he wouldn't commit at first. He was afraid to, like, for some reason, like, he doesn't, like, I don't even think he really understood why he couldn't commit. But he said that you had, like, were giving his stuff back, and he had a sweater, and you sprayed your perfume on it, and then when he left, and he was like, oh my God, what did I do? Because he could smell your scent.
That, I will say I was pretty smart with that.
That was hilarious. So, he would tell me that story all the time.
Yeah, it's like we were like hanging out for a while, but like I had just gotten out of a relationship. So like I didn't really like want to be in a committed relationship at that point, just because I guess I was just afraid of the title maybe because I just gotten out of a relationship, but I wanted to be around him and I loved being around him. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, it's funny because like the first like 2 weeks of us hanging out, he actually was like wanting me to be his girlfriend, wanting to make it official. And I was the one that told him no, because I was like, no, I just think it's too soon. I just got out of this relationship, and he was just like, okay. And then that scared him. So then it was like literally months go by. I was like, okay, we're either going to like, you're going to commit to me, or I'm like moving on, because I'm not doing this. Like, I'm not doing this like we're friends, but we hang out every day kind of thing. And so I'm like, okay, so what is it? And it's like, I just like, you know, he couldn't really give me a solid answer. And I was like, all right, bye. And I literally left his house. And I think like I didn't talk to him. Like I was ignoring his texts and everything for a week. And then finally I was like, okay, hey, I need my stuff. Mm-hmm. And he's like, okay, well, I'll just come over. Can I come over? I'm like, sure, to drop it off. So he comes over and I'm like, I'll just come out. And I bring his sweatshirt that he gave me. And I was like, okay, bringing it out to him. He's like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm giving you your stuff back. And I had just sprayed my perfume all over it. And I was like, yeah, you're going to smell me and you're going to miss me. And I hope you miss me, you know? Yeah. And it was so funny because, yeah, that story is what he liked to tell everybody. And that right after I gave him that sweatshirt and he went home and he cried to his best friend, Paul, and said that, you know, what did I do? And it was so funny. I'm like, it was perfume. We have a message from our sponsors, Aspire Counseling Services. We just want to remind everyone that seeking treatment should never be stigmatized. Aspire specializes in providing support and treatment for both teens and adults with mental health and substance use disorders, recognizing that these conditions often do coexist. They are an amazing resource, and you can get started by texting or calling the number 888-585-7373 to enroll at any time.
You guys just started building a life after that.
Yeah, I mean, because we kind of started off pretty strong in the beginning, and then it was like, I mean, we were at I was living at my parents' house, and he was living with some friends. And so then we kind of like, I would like be over at his house all the time, or he would be at my parents' house all the time. And then it was kind of like, well, like, why don't we just get an apartment? And so we finally got our first apartment. I would say maybe a year after we got together. But we spent times kind of like living at each other's houses, you know, it's like, but we were always together. And so then, yeah, we finally got our apartment, and then, yeah, it's just
That's
like.
about the time I met you.
Yeah,
You guys,
yeah. And so, yeah, we went from this apartment to this house to having a baby, getting engaged. And it's like, you know, our life was just like.
Happening.
Yeah.
It was happening.
Yeah, he was
And
like
in
my
the
person.
meantime, Kyle did struggle with some stuff, with some issues, like mainly PTSD.
Right.
And you learned about that.
Yeah, I actually learned about like his PTSD kind of earlier on. I would like I said, when we were just at my parents' house, I was living there, and it's like we would be watching a movie or watching a show or something, and I'd like fall asleep, and I'd wake up at like 3 a.m. I'm like, you're still here and you're still awake, you know? It's like he never left, and he's like, I just can't sleep. And he was literally having moments at his house, at the place he was living at with his friends. He's like, I've had moments where I'd wake up and I'm like, this is not my room. I felt like the walls were coming in on me. Like, it just like, just some trauma that he was dealing with. And so it was like, okay, come over, you know, even sometimes late at night when he wasn't going to be spending the night with me, it's like, he's texting me like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, okay, just come over, you know? And so even if I'm like sleeping, I'm like, you can stay up and watch TV and I'll just be next to you, you know? And so that's kind of like,
he
honestly.
He talked about it too, though, sometimes. He would talk about it.
I feel like not much.
Not much, but he would to his close friends.
Yeah.
And then he'd
laugh about it, though.
He would laugh about it because he would kind of make it seem like he would have it under control. But then he was so good about helping other people with it. Like, I think that he would share it sometimes if somebody was having a hard time so he could help them.
Right, yeah. And that truly is like the only time he would really
talk about
bring it up and make it something serious. Because he was like he was a humorous guy, you know. He would laugh things off and joke all the time. Funniest. Yeah, so funny. And so it's like, I feel like a lot of the time these funny people feel like they only can be funny and they can't have a serious moment, you know. And so he would like all the time, you know, joke and laugh. And even, you know, it was actually 2019 when we were living in our apartment when I did find out for the first time that he was taking pills. He was crying to me. I literally can picture him sitting on the floor looking up at me, and he's like, I have a pill problem. And I just like was kind of shocked, you know. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I knew something was wrong. I could tell the difference in him, and he was even losing weight, and I could tell something was going on. And he's like, I have a pill problem. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, well, let's get you help, you know, like, what do you need to do? And he's like, I'm fine, you know, I know that I need help and I'll get help. And then he had met Scott in the past, and so he's like, I just need to call Scott. Like, that was his first reaction. I need to call Scott. And right after that, he did. He actually went into Aspire, and he did like a small program, outpatient program. But the thing is that even during that time, he made it seem so minimal to me.
Yeah.
He literally was like, babe, I got this. Like, seriously, don't even worry about me.
That's the impression that I would get. Like, that he just had it under control.
All the time. And I'm just like, okay, you know, I mean, I trusted, like, if you really are handling this, then great, you know, like. But the thing is like, I mean, I wasn't experiencing that. I don't know. I've never dealt with someone that was dealing with a true addiction. And so I'm like, I just took his word. Okay, you're good.
You would just never know because of how he would help so many people all the time as well. Like, he would just always want to help people.
Right. And I mean, it was, it was a lot too on me, because it's like, you have to like hide it too. But then he really did get help though, and he really got better. He was gaining his weight back. He looked healthy, and he like, he was doing great.
He was thriving.
Yes. And then when he got better, he was all he ever wanted to do was help his friends.
Yes.
And so it was like, yeah, he had a friend that also came into an addiction problem. He's like, let's go. Held her hand and walked her into Aspire. Said, I got you. I know exactly what you need to do. You can do this. And I even have seen, she sent me the text messages, like, the texts that say, like, God, like, literally sending her, like, Bible verses and all the quotes that, like, you know, like, you have this, like, he's so encouraging to her. Continuously texted her saying, you got this, you know. And one of his really good friends, like, from way before I was even around, he had hung out with him all the time, and he had an alcohol addiction. And same thing, Kyle's like, you need to go to a treatment center, but you need to, like, be in a treatment center, no outpatient program or anything like that. So
it was a different story.
It was a whole different story. Yeah, it was a serious problem. And he took him, I want to say, like, drove him 2 hours to this treatment center to drop him off and make sure that he went in and he's actually going in, you know. And so he didn't care what it took to get this person help. He wanted to help. And then even the day that he died, he sent me a text that morning because that same friend actually was able to go to after he got out of treatment. He was able to transfer back to aftercare or whatever it is. So he came back to Bakersfield, and he was in a facility here. And Kyle's like, I got to go visit him. And that day that Kyle died, he went and visited him in this treatment center, and he sent me a picture. And so there's a picture of them sitting together at this treatment facility. And sometimes that's what kills me. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's sitting here trying to help all these people, and he's struggling himself. And he went and took a pill after that, you know? So that kills me, because still to his last day, he still was trying to help people when he was struggling himself.
Yeah.
And just like, that just shows his character.
Yes.
And how loving of a person he was, you know. He just really, like, cared about everybody. And, like, I want to keep doing that for him.
Caring about people.
Yeah.
And that's why we're here.
That's why we're here, because we're all a lot more similar than you would think. But people don't talk about this kind of grief and trauma all the time, you know.
They silence it. They keep it under the rug.
Right.
And that's what this is about.
Like, even after Kyle died, I'm like, sometimes I wish I just had a big freaking sticker on my head that said my fiancé just died, so that you know that, like, that's why maybe I'm having a bad day, or that's, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's like, you don't always want to start off your conversation with someone and, like, you're like, sorry, I'm in a bad mood today, but I'm grieving, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just a hard thing, and it's like, yeah,
the emotions are, like, up and down, up and down.
Like, even this morning, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was seriously thinking about canceling this morning, because I was just having a morning, like, being a single mom and having to get myself ready, having to get my son ready, get him where he needs to be so I can work and I can do the things that I need to do. And it's freaking hard, you know? People talk about being a single parent, and you obviously don't understand it until you're in it. And, like, now this is a whole different level, not even having a chance for him to be like, okay, go with dad for just a little bit, you know? Like, dad doesn't get him on the weekends, or you know what I mean? It's not like we split the time. It's like, I am full on single mom, which I have so much help.
I'm so proud of you, though. I'm so proud of you, and I think Kyle would be so proud of you that you're carrying this on, because this is exactly what he would want to do, is to help people, and that's what you're doing. And
more than anything, I want to make a difference for him, you know? I mean, we were a normal family. We just got engaged, had a 9-month-old baby at the time. He was so happy. He literally was like, my son is my everything, you know?
Yeah.
And he loved Brooks so much, and he was so proud. So to think that we had this normal life, and, like, literally one little bad decision can change everything.
And you just want that known. Like, it's only one bad decision
Yes.
away from
none of
wrecking
these. Yeah.
an entire life.
Yeah. Kyle's death has affected so many people because he was just so
loved.
So loved. Yeah.
He was so loved. And I'm glad that we're here. I'm glad that we were able to make this happen.
I am
for
too.
you. And
I'm so glad you kind of pushed me to do this too.
Yeah. I just knew you would be so good at it, and everybody can relate to you. And I'm happy that this is gonna be great. This is gonna like touch so many people, and it's gonna help you. It's gonna help you along your journey too.
I really hope so. And I want people to be able to share their own stories. You know, just like I have had this opportunity to share my story, I want people to have the same.
Yeah, and we're gonna have stories about, parents lost, wives lost, and we're gonna have success stories, and we're gonna have, the stories are gonna be endless.
Right.
Because it is endless.
Right.
This is life.
Right.
But we just need this outlet.
Right.
We need this outlet, and other people need to know that there's help, and we're going to have references available, so people can go in and find some help somehow.
Right.
We want everyone to know that there is hope. Mm-hmm. It's not the end.
Right.
You can get help. It's not embarrassing or anything like that. Like, you need to get help.
Right.
And then for the people that are going through it with them, they need help as well too.
Yeah.
Like, we all go through things.
Right.
And that's why I'm excited, because we talked about this so much, that it's not just about addiction.
Right. It's not.
It's about coping. It's about grief. It's about overcoming it. It's about, mental health, PTSD. Like, it's endless.
It really is. Yeah.
And I'm excited, and I'm proud of you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm really excited, and I really have no words.
And I'm so thankful to Aspire for letting us, giving us the opportunity to do this.
Right. Me too.
They just took two people on that just wanted to help people.
I know.
And that's how they help the community, is like they believed in us, and they said, go for it, know, and we're going to back you up because you have a good message.
Right. Yeah.
And I love
the
that.
fact that they truly trusted that we could do this is just amazing.
That's great.
Yeah. And I want to thank Citron Marketing too.
For sure.
We wouldn't be here without them either. So
Steven does amazing things too.
I know.
And they're a good combination.
They are. If you guys want to listen in to full episodes, you guys can listen on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can also watch full episodes on YouTube. And then don't forget to follow us on all of our socials on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.